Hello, we're going to start with our lesson 3, Dietary Guidelines and Nutrition Prescriptions. Our learning objectives for this lesson are to demonstrate ability to perform a basic nutrition assessment and to apply practical strategies to assist patients in achieving dietary changes. Describe the basic principles of healthy cooking, summarize nutrition prescriptions for most common chronic diseases including hyperlipidemia, diabetes, hypertension, and cancer, and properly interpret nutrition labels. What are the facts? Over 2/3 of the population, adult population, is either overweight or obese, 40% increase over the past 20 years. Less than 1/3 of the adult population consumes adequate servings of fruit and vegetables and follows simple, evidence-based nutritional practices for good health. The prevalence of diabetes has doubled in the past 20 years. Over 1/3 of the adult population has high blood pressure, less than 20% follow the DASH diet that have very good effects to diminish the risk of high blood pressure. Cardiovascular disease remains the leading killer of men and women, resulting in 37% of mortality each year. And as we know, lifestyle is in the center of all chronic diseases. It's the most important factor that we have to change in order to prevent chronic diseases like heart disease, stroke, diabetes, obesity, metabolic syndrome, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and also some cancers. The opportunity is that 7 of 10 leading risk factors for mortality are related to diet, like high blood pressure, overweight and obesity, high blood glucose levels, physical inactivity, high cholesterol levels, low fruit and vegetable intake, and alcohol use. Something that is important to know is that influences on eating behaviors are complex because they are influenced by individual, family, community, and public policy factors. So it has to be, these kind of interventions have to be multidimensional. We need to pass from what to how. Most of the people know what to do, but the problem is to implement it in their daily lifestyles. So we need to help them implementing. We have to address patterns of eating behavior. We have to apply successful behavioral change models. We have to identify strategies to overcome the barriers and choose appropriate interventions for each population. There are some dietary guidelines for Americans. We are going to review the edition of 2015 to 2020. Each 5 years, there is a new edition. These dietary guidelines are the base to help all individuals consume a healthy, nutritionally adequate diet. They are the base for federal food, nutrition, and health policies and programs and federal nutrition education materials designed for the public. And they are developed for use by policymakers and nutrition and health professionals. We are almost in 2021. The new dietary guidelines for Americans are going to be ready for us to be able to read them. So the dietary guidelines are not intended to be used to treat disease. They may be used or adapted by medical or nutrition professionals to encourage healthy eating patterns to patients. Creating each edition of the dietary guidelines is a joint effort of the Health and Human Services and the U.S. Department of Agriculture. A new edition is published every 5 years to reflect advancement in specific knowledge. So there are important terms to know. What is an eating pattern? It's the combination of foods and beverages that constitute an individual's complete dietary intake over time. And there's another term that is important to know, that is nutrient dense, that indicates that nutrients and other beneficial substances in a food have not been diluted by the addition of calories from added solid fats, sugar, or refined starches, or by the solid fats naturally present in the food. Like, for example, they are diluted in processed foods. So what is important in the dietary guidelines is to promote a healthy eating pattern that includes lots of fruits and vegetables, good quality of protein, specifically from fish, that meats, but lean meats, dairy products, low-fat dairy products, whole grains, and healthy oils, and limit saturated fats and trans fat, added sugars, and sodium. So it's recommendable to follow a healthy eating pattern across all your lifespan to prevent and reduce the risk of chronic diseases. So an example of this is to choose a variety of nutrient-dense food from each food group in recommended amounts. For example, lettuce and celery for vegetables, apples and grapes or berries for fruits, chicken breast or unsalted nuts like a protein, oils like mayonnaise but made of healthy olive oil made at home, preferably not processed, fat-free milk, and whole grains. You have to consume and eat a pattern low in added sugars and saturated fats and sodium. We have to avoid these fast foods, sugar beverages, pastries, and ice cream, and saturated fats, and pizza and hot dogs. These processed meats, all of these are full of saturated fats, trans fats, sodium, and added sugars. And the most important concept is to make healthy shifts from a high caloric, low nutrient meal to a nutrient dense option. That is the most important. So a healthy eating pattern includes lots of vegetables, lots of fruits, specifically berries, cruciferous, also mushrooms, and a lot of avocado and healthy oils. So as I said, a variety of vegetables from all the subgroups, dark green specifically, red and orange legumes, beans and peas, starchy and others. Fruits, specifically whole foods, not juices, because it's better because it contains the fiber. Grains, at least half of which are the best is to be whole grains, all of them, but at least half has to be whole. Fat-free or low-fat dairy, including milk, yogurt, the fermented forms are better, like yogurt, or in the case of soy milk, like tofu. And low fat is best, and the artisanal kind of cheeses, fresh cheeses, are better than the one that are more saturated in fats. And a variety of protein foods, including seafood, lean meats, and poultry, like eggs, legumes, beans and peas, and nuts, seeds, and soy products. And as I said, healthy oils. Healthy oils, the healthiest are the ones that occur naturally, like avocado oil, olive oil. Coconut oil is also very healthy, and palm oil. And limit saturated fats and trans fats, like the ones that are in processed foods with this hydrogenation process that make them trans fats and are not healthy at all, and added sugars and sodium. Individuals can enjoy foods that meet their personal, cultural, and traditional preferences and fit their budget. So a healthy eating pattern is about you find your specific healthy meals that fit your personal and cultural preferences, and make healthy shifts from high caloric snacks to nutrient snacks like fruits or vegetables, from fruit products with added sugars to whole foods, from refined grains to whole grains, from snacks with added sugars like commercial chocolate to dark chocolate or unsalted salts, from solid fats to healthy oils, and from beverages with added sugars to no sugar added beverages, specifically to encourage drinking water. We can see here, for example, that added sugars in the US population comes mostly from beverages, not milk, like or 100% fruit juice, like sugar beverages that are really not healthy at all. Soft drinks, fruit drinks, sport and energy drinks. And sodium comes from burgers and sandwiches and pizzas and pasta and soups and seafood dishes and poultry and meat. So this is that also a lot of sodium in protein, in some protein foods, but most in mixed dishes, burgers and sandwiches. Saturated fats also in burgers and sandwiches, pizza, most of them in dairy products too, and snacks and sweets. The best way, for example, in Mediterranean diet includes dairy, but is fresh dairy products, artisanal cheese from goats, instead of this kind of very processed cheeses that are very high in fat. And for making these kind of interventions to have a healthy eating pattern, everyone has a role. Policy makers, government, the agricultural, the the education and health ministries. So everybody has and the family itself has a role. So if we want to encourage people to change the way they eat, we have to start a conversation with them and ask these kind of questions. What's your family's favorite dinner? Who does the grocery shopping in your home and who cooks? What are some of your family's favorite food routines and traditions? When you're thirsty, what kind of drink do you reach for? Does eating healthier seems hard or unrealistic? Because many people are afraid, thinking that it's unrealistic, that it's going to be more expensive, that it's going to cost them more time. And the truth is that having a healthy way of eating actually can save money if you eat more fruits and vegetables and less processed food. And we have to ask health professionals, as we saw in our module of behavioral change, to be ready for resistance. They are going to tell us, I can't afford healthy foods, I don't have any time to cook, my kids won't eat anything healthy, I don't listen to the expert, they keep changing their minds, because there's a lot of confusion too in the social media. So the dietary guidelines are based on the body of the best nutrition evidence to date and have stayed largely consistent over the years. So we can base our recommendation on these guidelines. There are some tips for successful conversation with our patients. For example, emphasize that you are on the same side of them. The two of you are working together to solve a problem. It's not their problem, it's our problem. We have to celebrate their successes if your patient makes steps toward healthy eating. And remember always to start small, to be little by little changing the habits, and have empathy and be compassionate. Changing behavior is hard, specifically when it comes to food. We're actually really very attached to our food our kind of food, because it has to do with our identity. Mexicans travel with tortillas everywhere they go to live, and Vietnamese people like to do their pho's, and I don't know, everybody is attached to the way of eating. But eating healthier can adapt to any kind of traditional and cultural preferences. Healthy cooking is the future, is what it comes next. We have to learn to start cooking again at home and cook easy recipes. We have to start to know that the healthiest way to cook is to steam, bake, grill, braise, boil, or microwave, not frying. Modify or eliminate recipes that include butter, deep fry or saute in animal fat. This is not healthy at all. Avoid added oils and butter. Don't add salt to food as it is cooking. You have to finish cooking and then add very small quantities of salt. The best way is to eat the food in its natural flavor and not to be addicted to have salt all the time. Remove chicken skin and trim the fat from meat and from fish. Eat more fresh vegetables and legumes, and eat more fish, definitely. So now Harvard Medical School recommends us what is called the healthy eating plate. Instead of the pyramid of food, the healthy eating plate is a quarter of your plate has to be whole grains, another quarter of your plate has to be healthy protein, and half of your plate has to be vegetables, most of it, and a little bit of fruit. To drink a lot of water, to eat healthy oils, and always important to emphasize staying active. We have to move and move. Do exercise, a lot of exercise in the base of this healthy eating plate. So when we ask ourselves, what should I eat? Always remember, vegetables and fruit, half of your plate. Whole grains, you need to have to be a quarter of your plate. And fat-free and low-fat dairy is important to have a portion a day, but the most important is to eat it in the fermented forms, is the healthiest way, the yogurt, for example, or to eat artisanal cheeses and fresh cheeses instead of the ones who have more content of saturated fat, the curated forms of them. A quarter of your plate should be protein powered, come from fish mostly, eggs, excellent biological value, as we said, and all kinds of seeds and nuts. Also, there are a very good quality of protein in whole grains. And of course, lean meats, but specifically red meat has to be lower, the consumption of red meat. Seafood is recommended to have 8 to 12 ounces a week of seafood. Is the total package of nutrients that seafood provides, including its EPA and DHA content. Strong evidence has shown that eating patterns that include seafoods are associated with reduced risk of cardiovascular disease, and moderate evidence indicate that these eating patterns are associated with reduced risk of obesity. Seafood that are encouraged is the consumption of wild salmon. Wild catch salmon is better than the one that is in farms because it has better content of omega-3 fatty acids. Anchovies, herring, shad, sardines, Pacific oysters, trout, and Atlantic and Pacific mackerel, specifically Pacific mackerel. These also have lower content of mercury. Talking about meats and poultry, strong evidence has shown that lower intake of meats, as well as processed meats specifically and processed poultry, are associated with reduced cardiovascular disease in adults. Moderate evidence indicates that these eating patterns are associated with reduced risks of obesity, type 2 diabetes, and some types of cancers in adults. Specifically, we need to reduce processed meats. They are really not healthy. Healthy plant oils are encouraged, specifically olive oil, as I said, avocado oil, sesame oil. Those are the best ones, the oils that come in their natural form and that are not processed. And about drinking beverages, the best is to choose water. Coffee also has some benefits to health. Lately, they have shown that having moderate amounts of coffee is okay. As we said, orange juice has its benefits, but in small quantities because has a lot of sugar and doesn't have any fiber, but it's good content of vitamin C and antioxidants and anti-inflammatory compounds. So the best choice is water. And also, it's very important to look at the nutrition labels. Start with always, you have to understand how to read these nutrition labels. Start with the serving information at the top, always. Next, you have to check the total calories per serving and container. Then you need to look for the nutrients that you need to limit, like, for example, how much sodium, how much saturated fats, how much sugar content it has. And get enough of the beneficial nutrients and understand what is the percentage of daily value as we talk about it. So nutrition prescriptions for chronic diseases, we need to know that, for example, in diabetes, high in low glycemic, the diet that is the best for diabetes is high in low glycemic carbohydrates, low in refined carbohydrates, low in saturated fat, and nearly plant-based or Mediterranean diet is the best option, nutrition prescription for diabetes. For cardiovascular disease, the Mediterranean diet, the Ornish diet, or the American Heart Association diet. For hypertension, the best nutrition prescription is DASH diet, low in sodium, low in saturated fat, and low in alcohol. For cancer prevention, mostly plant-based diets are the ones that are recommended, low in processed foods, as we already said, and meats, and low in alcohol. Alcohol consumption now, we have to emphasize that it has to be diminished. Many years ago, they thought that having a glass of wine every day was healthy, but now they said a cup of wine, of red wine, a week for a woman, or 2 cups of wine for a man is what is recommended, not more than that, and preferably not to consume alcohol. Hyperlipidemia, the diets that are recommended are very low in saturated fats, substituted with polyunsaturated vegetable oils like olive oil, mostly plant-based diet, high in soluble fiber, fruits, vegetables, and nuts, low in refined carbohydrates, rich in whole grains and rich in sterols and stanols and fatty fish or omega-3, eicosapentaenoic acid, decahexanoic acid, and supplements are recommended in case that there are cardiovascular disease already diagnosed. I'm sorry. We have finished with this lesson, and we are going to follow with our fourth lesson in the next minutes. Thank you.